Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a privilege and honor for me to welcome you to today's episode of the USI Strategic Perspective podcast. Today, we turn our attention to a land that carries immense weight in India's national security calculus, the Siliguri Corridor. The Siliguri Corridor is a narrow stretch of land located in West Bengal that connects India's northeastern states to the rest of India, flanked by Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, and not far from the Chinese border. The corridor is more than a geographical choke point. It is a strategic lifeline. The Siliguri corridor extends from the Darjeeling, Jalpaiguri, and Terai areas of West Bengal towards the northeast. This land bridge, just about 22 kilometers wide at its narrowest point, lies between Nepal to the north and Bangladesh to the south. Its geopolitical fragility and criticality have earned it the nickname of Chicken's Neck in strategic and military circles. Any disruption of this corridor, be it from military conflict, internal disturbances, or any natural disaster, would sever India's northeastern states from the rest of the country. The Siliguri corridor, therefore, is a strategically important and highly sensitive territory. To talk about its security and strategic implications and the perennial security challenges it imposes, we could not have asked for anybody better informed than Major General B.K. Sharma, AVSM SM Bar, the Director General of the USI. Major General Sharma needs no introduction on this platform, but for those who don't know him, he is a distinguished infantry veteran with rich operational experience and expertise in strategic affairs and particularly multi-domain warfare. He was conferred 3 military awards by the President of India for rendering exceptional distinguished service and for displaying courage. Besides, he was conferred the National Award for Nation Building by the Confederation of Educational Excellence of India in 2017. He has represented the country as a UN military observer in Central America and has been India's defense attaché in the Central Asian region. He specializes in strategic net assessment, scenario building, strategic gaming, and red teaming. He has edited several books and contributed seminal papers in Indian and foreign publications and regularly participates in Track 1.5 dialogues. Good morning, sir. It is indeed a privilege and honor to host you in this edition of the USI Strategic Perspective. And today we will be discussing an issue which you have very intimate knowledge about, having commanded your division in this area. So can you please tell us the geostrategic importance of the Siliguri corridor for India's strategic security, and why is it called India's jugular vein?
Firstly, thank you very much for this interaction with you. In fact, you have already brought in many aspects of the strategic importance of Siliguri corridor. So I would like to develop on some of these. And the primary strategic importance of the corridor emanates from its connectivity. Connectivity to 8 very important northeastern states and also 4 neighboring countries, namely Bangladesh, you have Myanmar on the far end, China, and Bhutan and Nepal. All right. And this is a multimodal connectivity. You have the broad gauge, you have the rail, you have fiber optics, then the pipeline from Baroni towards the central India is also coming through this. So it's important.
Even the pipeline going to Bangladesh.
Bangladesh is going through this.
Assam.
Assam is going through this. So even from energy security point of view, it's extremely important. Besides, there are a number of VAs and VPs, as we call it, the vulnerable areas and vulnerable points reside in the corridor.
Sure.
You have two important air bases, Bagdogra and Hashimara. You have an aviation base in a place called Shaugam. Then there are logistic installations, a very important installations located in this area. In addition to that, from the military point of view, you have a core headquarters there, you have a sub area headquarters, you have other formation headquarters. So, from all this, I think the strategic importance of Siliguri corridor cannot be overstated. And one more important issue is the Atista River, system, its tributaries and all, which is a lifeline as far as the irrigation of this region is concerned. The region is also important from tourism point of view and also tea industry. Very, very thriving.
Yes, sir. Darjeeling and for going to Sikkim, sir.
Sikkim.
And can you touch a bit on Sikkim also, sir? Now?
Yeah, so Sikkim now is extremely important because if you look at firstly the access to Sikkim and secondly the proximity of Sikkim to Chumbi Valley.
Yes.
I think out of all the state capitals in the country, the closest to international border to China is Gangtok. So, and there is a history of 1975 assimilation of Sikkim. So there is a history of that. So all that makes it extremely important, particularly the proximity of Doklam Plateau, Gyamuchin Peak, how it oversees the Siliguri Corridor. So from that perspective also, as far as why it is called jugular vein, I would like to explain it a bit. You look at Siliguri Corridor has three open flanks. One is towards the east, and that is the eastern Nepal border, which is bordering western Sikkim, and also Darjeeling district. Now, this is an open flank. We do not have any deployment on that. And Chinese have become very active in that region. I'll explain it little later. Then the second open flank is from Hashimara, from Phungchling, which is a border town of Bhutan, coming down to Hashimara. Again, on that side, we have porous border with Bhutan and we have hardly any deployment there. And then is a semi-fenced border with Bangladesh, which is highly susceptible to cross-border movements, illegal activities, and things.
We'll come to this later, sir.
So that is another. So porous borders and open flanks, and there is also the ethnic polarization in that Gurkhas versus Bengalis versus other ethnicities which are now migrating to the region. So from all this, if there is a disruption, then it is a jugular vein which can be really exploited.
Now, Sikkim, sir, you talked of Sikkim in passing. You've in one of your podcasts, you said Sikkim is like a wedge between China and Bhutan.
Yeah.
But you've also said Sikkim gives the Siliguri corridor a certain amount of strategic depth. So
see, as I said, that it is a wedge between Bhutan on one side and Nepal on other. And why depth? Because this is a geographical area which resides between China's Chumbi Valley and Siliguri corridor, right? And it's a sort of a state of India. So from that perspective, I think it provides strategic depth that tomorrow, if Chinese are able to come to, say, Gyamuchin or Jampheri ridgeline, right, then this whole corridor will get very badly affected.
Thank you, sir. I think you've covered this entire thing in such a detailed manner and with such great clarity. Our viewers could not have asked for somebody better than you to talk about this. But another issue which you raised in this, in passing, I want to discuss that, and that is the internal developments of the region, sir. You've talked of the problems of, the Northeast, the issue of the demographic profile, the open porous borders you talked about, including the fencing that is done with the Bangladesh border. And the problem leads to migration of, population. And there have also been issues of the Gorkha movement over here. So can you apprise the viewers of the collusive and hybrid threats faced by these internal security challenges in this corridors?
See, you have enumerated some of the internal security challenges, and we have this history of Kamtapur liberation movement there, which is actually a tribal Bongshi, ethnicity people.
Sure.
They have been asserting. Then there was this Gurkha land movement from 2007,
Correct, sir.
and it has waxed and waned with the ebb and flow of time. Earlier, you had Gishing, who was a military veteran. He spearheaded that movement, and later on, Bimal Grum during 2012, 2011.
Correct.
It was at the peak, right? And they were asserting for autonomy and, breaking loose from Bengali domination. While the movement may have subsided outwardly, but inwardly there are undercurrents of discontentment which could be exploited. Likewise, districts like Malda and you have Cooch Bihar, where there is a sort of a certain ethnicity, its numbers are growing, which is also causing ethnic polarization there. In
That
addition,
ethnicity is also due to, migration, illegal migration.
illegal migrations, and that is why issue like Citizens Amendment Act and
Yes, sir.
National Register for Citizenship, it can act as a trigger, which can be abetted by external agencies to cause problems there, socio political upheaval or disruption.
Target a fault line, like
Target.
you often said,
Yes.
sir.
Then we have also sort of the problem of Ulfa in the
Yes, sir.
past. Like we did operations together with Bhutan, all clean operations.
Yes, sir.
There were some camps which are in the areas of Assam and Bhutan border. And Ulfa, besides that, the other
Bodo problem.
Bodo problem,
Yes.
ANEs
ANEs,
of
sir.
different hues and shades and shapes. They're also very active and they use this area for transit and also as sleeper cells. So these are some of the internal problems. Then is the counterfeit.
Currency,
It's a
sir.
major conduit of counterfeit.
Even drugs, sir.
Drug smuggling, illegal trade, and a whole kind of, trans-border illegal activities, particularly through Nepal border. So this is another problem as far as internal security is concerned. As far as external security,
Yes, sir, we'll come to that, sir.
Mhm.
As far as external security is concerned, the neighborhood has been on fire.
Yeah.
India's periphery is, you can say, burning.
Yeah.
You saw what happened last year, nearly a year,
Yeah.
in Bangladesh, when
Yeah.
protesters
Yeah.
came in, Sheikh Hasina's government was ousted.
Yeah.
And just a week ago, you had the problem in Nepal.
Yeah.
And the government was removed, Oli's government, and now you have a new prime minister. And this was, they said, Gen Z. And this surprisingly happened soon after Prime Minister Oli visited China for the September 3rd parade.
Yeah.
So he had Chinese support, and yet his government was overthrown. So there is the burning issue in this region, and you've seen these changes of regime. And there are also problems in Myanmar, sir. There are also problems in Myanmar, which the military junta is not fully in control of this region. So how do you visualize the impact of these countries and these problems which are in the immediate neighborhood of the Siliguri Corridor on the security of this region?
See, we've been now calling Northeast, which includes Siliguri Corridor, as India's third front.
Sure.
And that is not without a reason. And in this third front, the elephant in the room remains China. Right. A post Doklam incident in 2017, Chinese have increased their military footprints in Chobe Valley. They're very vulnerable there, but at the same time, they do have aspiration to grab some territory of Bhutan, in particularly in Western Bhutan, and if that happens, then they can also have a direct domination over the Siliguri corridor. They are very active in eastern Nepal, Elam, Thaplijang, Jhafa area, where they have developed road connectivity from a pass called Tiptala Pass. They are funding panchayats there, they're modernizing police station, and also have the Maoist cultural centers there. So Chinese influence in eastern Nepal is something we have to be very,
Very
very concerned about, because this is an open border and they can pose certain asymmetric threats there. Likewise, they have the capacity to gobble some of the areas of Bhutan, particularly a place called MK Ridgeline. They're already on the foothills or on the base of MK Ridgeline, and if they capture the ridgeline, then the whole Paro Valley and all this Ha area, this get affected, and it can open an avenue of approach towards India. As far as Bangladesh is concerned, we know the developments there.
Yes, I'll
Yeah.
asking you about Bangladesh.
Yeah.
There's something specific I want
Yeah.
to ask you about
So I'll
Bangladesh.
live at Bangladesh, but if you look at Myanmar,
Myanmar.
no, Myanmar today is in the throes of a civil war.
So-
And even if elections are conducted in December, these would be sham elections, and that will not actually arrest the civil war or the ethnic uh, violence there. Arakan army today is virtually taken control of entire Rakhine state and part of Shan state, which is bordering India, and therefore that impacts our Kaladan project and trilateral highway, which are the pincers of our India's Act East policy. There are other foreign players who are now looking up towards, there is the Saint Martin Island there. There was a buzz about, Americans having
Correct,
some
sir.
interest in Saint Martin Island. There was also another buzz about maybe UN, on the prompting from US, wants to open a Rakhine humanitarian corridor through Bangladesh, Cox's Bazar. And all these developments do not augur well as far as our strategic security interests are concerned. Coupled with this is the situation in Manipur, all right? And there is an external factor very much there. So that needs to be specified. But Bangladesh is the most worrisome factor today. And I can respond to the situation in Bangladesh in your next question.
So my next question, now that we've set the stage, is focused on Bangladesh. The interim leader of Bangladesh, Muhammad Yunus, he went to China, and surprisingly, in China, he issues a very sort of statement which is almost like a veiled threat, distorted narrative, I'll say, and in which he talks, that about India's northeast and the Siliguri corridor, implying its dependence on transit routes through Bangladesh. He said, that basically he tried to threaten that Bangladesh controls all the routes to the northeast, and if China and Bangladesh get close together, India's northeast will be cut off from the rest of India, because they say that the only sea route is, like you mentioned, through the south, through Myanmar, Kaladan, or it was through Bangladesh, which is now being denied. So, with elections due in Bangladesh next year and the unlikelihood of a pro-India government again being in place, how do you see Bangladesh, emerging as what you talked of, the third front, so to say, in this thing? And another issue that is there is the Chinese are investing heavily in developing infrastructure in Bangladesh. Now, you talked of airfields, which are vulnerable, areas in this thing, but at the same time, there's an old airfield of World War II vintage, 1931, it was established, unused airfield, close to the Siliguri corridor, so to say, they're talking about, resurrecting that airfield, doing it up by with Chinese help. And this is the Lal Morhan Hath airfield, sir. So can you tell us a little bit more about all this?
See, from my perspective, I think Yunus has overstated his case in China. There are certain aspects of geography which cannot be wished away. Like if you look at the entire geographical configuration of Bangladesh, it is surrounded on the land from three sides by
Correct, sir.
India, and the only outlet it has is through the Bay of Bengal. So for transshipment, for land trade and everything, for water, electricity, its dependence on India remains overwhelmingly, profound, and therefore this factor cannot be wished away through rhetoric. But this is definitely the mindset that we have to be mindful of. My concerns is about more about the internal dynamics of Bangladesh one, because the kind of forces which have been unleashed post the ouster of Sheikh Hasina are inimical to India, and these are being spearheaded by Jamaat-e-Islami, which is now being
Funded by the ISI.
By ISI, it is being patronized by ISI, and there are organizations like Jaish-e-Mohammed of Bangladesh. You have Ansarullah Bangladesh team. You have Huji. You have Islamia Shatra Shibr. These are the organization. You have Jamaat-e Islam. This what you call is Hifazatul Islam of Bangladesh, and you have Al Qaeda Islamic Indian subcontinent. These are the organizations. So there are plenty of these organizations who will play a role in Bangladesh, because Bangladesh National Party is not very strong.
Not strong.
And in the past, they're known to be hobnobbing with some of these Islamist forces. If this cocktail there comes up, it will be rabidly anti-India. And if ISI gets its toehold there, as we have seen, the DGISI visited there, and there were some top military officials from Bangladesh visiting Pakistan, and they opened the trade, visa relaxations, and things like that. So this is one factor we have to guard against. The second factor is the Chinese presence. Today they have, I think, a trade worth $24 billion vis-a-vis India's $30 billion. One. Second is their involvement in major strategic projects.
Yes, so that's what
Lal Munir Hut, you just said, Tista dredging project, Pyara and Mangla kind of airport, the seaport, which otherwise we were talking about. Now they will come there. So virtually, if they dominate the the Bangladesh economy, and they are in cohort with Pakistan, then this Pakistan-China nexus will manifest on our eastern board, which will also impact the security of Siliguri.
No, so I think you've given wonderful remarks regarding Bangladesh and looked very deeply into this, sir. And now, another country which you talked about, which is not immediately bordering this Siliguri corridor, but which plays a major role as far as the security of the Siliguri corridor goes, is China, sir. And you talked of Chumbi Valley, which is their closest, point to the Siliguri corridor. But China's expansionism remains persistent, sir. You visited China. You're an expert on China, sir. And this affects India's security concerns. Though we've seen a recent warming of ties between India and China, yet the borders still remain unresolved, sir. So with China laying claim to Doklam and the proximity to the Chumbi Valley, how do you feel India needs to secure this region?
See, as far as military equation is concerned, the terrain in Sikkim favors India.
Favors the defender, sir.
Favors the defender, because we are on the watershed. And Chumbi Valley is very, very narrow valley. There are two lifelines, the eastern feeder and the western feeder, converging at Yatung. And from Yatung towards Doklam Plateau, you have a single axis which is dominated by Jandori. So I don't think militarily, in the classic military sense, Chinese will be able to pose a major threat there. Yes, they can pose asymmetric threats through non-state actors operating in eastern Nepal. But my worry is about, Bhutan. At the moment, we have very good relations with Bhutan. Bhutan is dependent on us. There is
Bhutan is actually one of the areas of stability as
yeah,
far as India's neighborhood,
interdependence and
and
counter.
all the infrastructure for Bhutan flows through the Siliguri
Yeah,
corridor, sir.
yeah. But what Chinese are doing, they are, nudging Bhutan for this 3-point border agreement,
Sir,
wherein they are looking for a swap deal that they will cede sort of claims to eastern Bhutan areas as long as Bhutanese are able to give them this 89 square kilometers of Doklam Plateau. Now, if that happens, and Doklam is given to by Bhutanese
to China.
to China, that will change the calculus there. So our relations with Bhutan are extremely important. That Bhutan is not able to deal with the border issue sans India. Both should be coterminous. So this is a major issue. In regard to, I think we need to do a sort of a very quick-footed or deft diplomacy in Nepal so that Nepal doesn't fall into the orbit of China. And we have to do better investment in eastern Nepal and secure Indo-Nepal border in consultation, in concert with Nepal, so that these illegal activities which are China sponsored do not take place.
Nepal has moved away from India to a degree, sir. And we've seen there are multiple reasons for that. Whereas Bhutan is still firmly,
Yeah, but we
pro
should
India.
not take things
So we
for
should not
granted.
take things for granted.
Don't take
But
things.
what I wanted to ask you, since you were serving there, sir, what are the strength of our military to military relations with Bhutan, sir?
See, the entire budget of Bhutan's military is actually funded by India,
Sir,
right? And we have a training team there at Ha, where we do the capacity building. Bhutanese have also been training in our military training institutions in a very big way. The King 5 of Bhutan is an alumni of National Defense College, right? So on the whole, mill to mill, I think the relationship could be better. And India is actually very, very respectful as far as Bhutanese sentiments and their sense of sovereignty is concerned. We never sort of browbeaten them.
never.
And with the help of this hydropower diplomacy, we have empowered Bhutan today, that it is not a buyer-seller relationship, but it is more of a kind of a two strategic partners respecting each other's sovereignty. And Bhutan has stood by India on
Always.
all occasions as far as voting in the UN is
Correct.
concerned. So relationship is very
So we have to maintain this relationship.
cozy, but there are swift, winds of changes which are coming up because the young generation, the what you call the social media generation, new sentiments, the Chinese, overtures. We have to be very cautious and align ourselves with the evolving sentiments and aspirations of Bhutan.
So now we looked at the neighborhood, we've looked at the problems. Now I come down to a question which is not asked normally, sir, in these things. And that is, you see, you have these countries around you. You have 3 states, you can say Assam, West Bengal, and Bihar. You have Bangladesh border, you have the Nepalese border, you have the Chinese border from Sikkim, if you count, and then you have the Bhutanese border. So you have all this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with this strange matrix, so to say, in this complex, compressed region, sir, who are the main security stakeholders, sir, and how is their integration carried out? And are there any gaps in this security mechanism?
Yes, firstly, let's look at, you've already sort of enumerated the number of states involved. So, one is the interstate relationship coordination. One. The second is the state and center coordination. particularly when the relations between the state of Bengal and center are not very harmonious.
So,
They're not on the same page as far as security of that region is concerned.
but they've not been harmonious even earlier.
Yeah, but it's a cause of
Because
concern.
you
Cause of
remember, sir, that Teesta water agreement
Yeah,
to
yeah,
Bangladesh
yeah.
was scuttled at that time by the chief minister of Bangladesh,
So this is
of West Bengal. Sir.
yeah. So this is another. The third thing is the number of ministries which are dealing with it. You have a Ministry of Defense with the borders. You have Ministry of Home Affairs, the ITBP. Then you have Ministry of External Affairs, which decides about everything. You have the Ministry of other ministries like Surface Transport and other ministries. So there are a number of ministries. Then the agencies. You have on China border, you have ITBP and you have Indian Army. And ITBP is not under operational
Correct, sir.
control of Indian Army. On the Bangladesh border, you have an entire range of the BSF. But as like on the LOC, again, they are not under the operational control of Indian Army. Then you have SSB, which is looking after Bhutan and Nepal border,
Nepal.
right? And you have number of intelligence agencies
Yeah.
also dealing with this. So as a result, the coordination is a major issue. While we may have different elements and entities there, but their coordination is a very, very big problem. And I think that is something which needs to be addressed, and we can discuss that.
Yes, sir. So, how do you think this coordination needs to be done? There's a core headquarter over there, sir.
Yeah,
So that core should, logically everything should fall under command of the core, or there should be some sort of unified headquarter or some sort of mechanism for ensuring this civil military fusion, for ensuring this. Sir.
see, I feel that we should not Royal Corps headquarters. They have a very important operational role into this mess of Siliguri Corridor. We need to create at the very apex level, at the national level, a Siliguri Corridor Coordination Agency or Center, right? Which is a multi agency center and it should be under the Ministry of Home Affairs, right? And we should have, we can call as sort of a cluster of intelligence agencies on one side. Then we can have cells operating from, say, the Corps headquarters there, from the Air Force Station, right? BSF, all these sub entities should also function together with this. And there should be a mechanism of periodic meetings, assessments, and implementation. We also need elements from what you call is the state, a CID, a state police, and other agencies which are working there is the railways. So railway protection force, and then Teesta Urja is working on number of hydel projects in on Teesta River. There are about 8 or 9 projects there, and you see, Sikkim has been highly susceptible to earthquakes and bursting of lakes and whatnot. So we need disaster management authority bricks also there and representatives of all this. So if we are able to create this together, I think we would be in much better position to take care of the comprehensive security of
Absolutely, sir. So you need something like an
but an
organization.
overarching authority, or you need a
But you
coordination.
feel this overarching authority, rightly so, should be under the MHA.
MHA,
But the MEA also must contribute.
MEA should be part of
They
that.
should also be
Yeah.
part of that.
So this is I think this is something which is overdue, and earlier we do, better it is for us.
Oh, sir, you've actually brought us, to a very great understanding of the region itself, the problems that it faces, and the complexity of the challenges. And more important than that, you've given such wonderful recommendations on how we can, focus on overcoming these challenges that we face. So, Siliguri Corridor may be narrow on the map, sir, but it looms large on India's strategic, mindset, so to say, and imagination. And what we've heard from you today, sir, is especially your recommendations are really far-reaching and very, very reassuring, sir. So while the vulnerabilities and threats exist, they can neither be left ignored or unattended, sir. And our armed forces and the government remain fully alert to these challenges. You, having served there, are absolutely aware of all the multifarious challenges that we face, and we must ensure the security of this gateway at all times, sir. So thank you very, very much, sir, for sharing your views today, sir.
Thanks. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you very much, sir.
Bye-bye.
And Jai Hind, everybody. Jai Hind.